Welcome back to the very best video to watch if you're about to play a game of Final Fight Trivial Pursuit. You're guaranteed to win if you watch this 3-part series. I want to start out this episode by talking about one of the other playable characters, Guy. He is actually the complete opposite of Haggar in terms of gameplay, seeing as how he is both the fastest, but also the weakest character of the three. Whereas Haggar specializes in the use of the steel pipe, Guy prefers to use the katanas in the game. I've also read somewhere that Guy is actually a vegetarian, so I guess that, seeing as how most of the healing items are meats, he doesn't use a whole lot of them. He is 24 in this game, and his two special skills are sprinting, being able to run 100 meters in 10.2 seconds, and making bonsai. He is trained and fights with specific brands of ninjutsu called Bushinryu Ninpo. In terms of the storyline, he is the least interesting character of the three in my opinion. In this game, he is just there, tagging along with Cody when Haggar called him, just because he can. He was Cody's training partner, though why he was specifically training here in Metro City is never explained. It is his duty to fight evil as a Bushin fighter though, so at least that's there to give him a reason to help out. As stated in the previous video during Sodom's battle, Guy is a playable character in Street Fighter Alpha, starting from the very first game in that series. In this game storyline, he is basically training to find the true power of his fighting style. In his ending in the second game, his master, the 38th Bushinryu master, Ziku, challenges him for the title, of which there can be only one at the same time. Why Zico would come to challenge Guy instead of having it be the other way around is beyond me though. At any rate, Guy wins and becomes the 39th Bushin Master. In the third Street Fighter Alpha game, Guy goes after Bison's organization, Shadalu, because it's evil, and as a master it is now his duty to vanquish it. Fate would have the opposite happen though, in that he comes across a woman named Rose. This lady actually tracked down and beat Bison in the previous game. However, though she thought he was dead, he survived and she goes after him again. What she doesn't know though, is that Bison and her are the same person. Sort of. When Bison was training and realized that to be the most powerful, he would have to split his soul in two, himself being the evil part, and Rose being the goodness he had in him. Anyway, Guy tells her not to throw her life away, but she doesn't listen. So, we're obviously at a boss battle now, so I'll take a short break from Guy to share some trivia about this character, Rolento. He has apparently fought in many worldwide wars, but mainly the Vietnam one. And as a member of the Special Forces unit, the Red Berets, it can be said that Rolento is a combat-hardened veteran. He has this strict military stereotype going on, praising absolute order and discipline, and despising revelry. He wants to build an utopia-style military nation, with himself as the supreme ruler. I don't quite get why he's with the Mad Gear gang though, taking that into account. Perhaps to build up funding or find recruits, I don't know. I do like how he blows himself up instead of fading away like the other bosses. Rolento is another Final Fight character who ended up being playable in the Street Fighter series. In his case, Street Fighter Alpha 2. In a streak of genius, if you beat the game with him, you can see Mike Haggar getting a call in his office, being asked to stop Rolento, who is driving through the business district of Metro City in a tank. In the canon, he was defeated by Guy, who threw a shuriken at his face, which is how he got that scar. And with that, we're back to Guy again, though we're going to stray from Alpha 3 for a bit and go to something different, though we'll flow back into Alpha later again. Guy is engaged to a girl named Rena, who, along with her father, was abducted by a revived Mad Gear gang in Final Fight 2. This took place during the Street Fighter Alpha storyline though, so he was not playable in that game. As stated before, Haggar was, and a throwaway character called Carlos Miyamoto. But more importantly, so was Rena's younger sister Maki. Their dad was actually the 37th Bushin Master, so that would make him the master of Guy's master. Maki has the dubious honor of being the only character from a Final Fight sequel to make a comeback in another Capcom game as a playable character. She first appeared in Capcom vs SNK 2, and from there was added in Street Fighter Alpha 3, specifically the upper version for the Game Boy Advance port. She would later be added in the latest upgrade to Street Fighter Alpha 3, called Street Fighter Alpha 3 Max, in which her story was fleshed out a bit more. In this game, which takes place after Final Fight 2, she is in search of Guy to dethrone him as master of the Bushin style. She finds him, and they fight for a bit, leaving Guy unimpressed. During their fight though, they sense an evil presence and go after it. It turns out to be Bison, and Maki decides to fight him on her own, but she is quickly brushed away. Guy then leaps in and forces Bison to retreat, who is actually surprised by his strength. Maki isn't happy about being saved by Guy, but thanks him anyway. She vows to become stronger and that she will become the next Bushin Master. Guy tries to go after Bison, but instead finds Rose again, unconscious. There aren't any serious physical wounds, but he can sense that something is wrong with her. He stops going after Bison to take her to the hospital. Somewhere along taking her there, he senses that Bison is destroyed. But at the same time, he feels an unexplainable chill as he holds Rose. That would be Bison's soul taking over Rose's body. His own ending tells that all his training made him realize the true power of Bushin. That he held the power of life and death in his fists, and that questioning right and wrong is irrelevant. Guess he became pretty powerful at this point. This change of character is shown in Final Fight 3, where Guy is again playable. In it, he helps to rid Metro City of the Skullcross gang, but when they are defeated, he leaves the rebuilding of the city to Haggar, showing he now only cares about duty. This makes Streetwise's portrayal of him all the more strange. In it, Cody has taken a fall for a crime Guy committed, or was at least part of. It was never really explained what happened in game. And afterwards he becomes involved in a life of organized crime, quickly becoming the underworld figure in Metro City's Japantown. This rather conflicts with his development from the Alpha series. But like I mentioned in the previous video, the game is probably not canon anyway. Remember I mentioned the game Captain Commando in the first video? There is a playable character in that one called Ginzo, who is also a successor to the Bushin Ryu style. Whether or not Guy trained him or not is up to debate, since the game states that Ginzo's father was also his master, though that specific story came long before Alpha's vision of having just one Bushin master at a time. Still, he was stated to have a brotherly and student relationship with Guy. There are ninja enemies in the set game as well, which use a punch, elbow, roundabout kick combo, something that Guy also uses. These enemies are stated to be from the same clan as Ginzu. This might mean that Guy actually started up another clan, like he did in Streetwise. It would be interesting to see if Capcom, if they ever do go back to this franchise, would do anything with these plot points. They could do a potential remake, or a sequel, or a prequel, or on-disc DLC, whatever makes them the most money. It's funny how half of the things I talked about for Guy's trivia were actually about other characters or games. That's kind of telling. One thing that I find funny is that if you take the Street Fighter plot into account, which includes the Final Fight games, Guy has actually appeared in as many of them as the other series' mascot, Ryu. Both were in all 3 alpha games and the 4th installment. Ryu was playable in the original Street Fighter and its 2 sequels. Guy was in Final Fight 1, 3 and Revenge, but if you count Streetwise as canon though, Guy has actually been in 1 plot-related game more than Ryu. And we're done with Guy, just in time for the final boss of this video, Abigail. You might have noticed his face paint in his dialogue portrait. Like I mentioned in the previous video, a lot of enemies' names are based off of either bands or musicians. And Abigail is based off Danish rocker King Diamond, and his name actually comes from said band's 2nd album. There's not a whole lot of trivia to be found about him though. He was teased in school for his female name, grew bitter towards his parents for naming him such, and left home when he was 17, then got recruited into the Mad Gear gang after beating up a group of punks who were assaulting him. I've never liked this boss. I have absolutely no idea how to approach him, as you can tell by me dying all the time. I was actually quite surprised at this point that I was even able to beat him at all instead of getting a game over. The canon tells me that Cody and Guy encountered him at the same time, and he said, "Hey, cool down, she must be having a good time with Belger." This is part of the dialogue with Cody. Anyway, Cody rushes to the next stage and leaves Guy to defeat Abigail, which he then does after a hard battle. This bonus stage is also where we're leaving off in this video. At least it shows how powerful Haggar is. He doesn't get glass in him, glass gets Haggar in it.